Hello everyone, my name is Alan Papijos. I'm one of the senior IELTS reading trainers at B-GHUD. We have been releasing a lot of videos on different modules in IELTS over the past few weeks, including reading. Recently, we uploaded a couple of videos on frequently asked questions in reading module. I hope you have watched it. If you haven't, please do watch them. This video is going to be another one on reading module where I will be discussing 5 basic things that a candidate must remember while solving a passage, an IELTS reading passage. So let's get started. The first thing, never ever overlook the importance of reading and understanding the instructions. See, if you are familiar with the passage, if you are familiar with the IELTS reading passages, you will know how important the instructions are, how important it is for us to read and understand the instructions, because we will get a lot of relevant information from the instructions. For example, the task, the type of question, the availability of options, the word limit, and so on. So it is necessary for us to get a proper direction which we will get from the instructions. So we all must read, or you must read the instructions carefully. But the problem here is when a candidate practices too much. Let's take the case of candidates here in this institution, B-GHUD. When the candidates come here, we do provide them a lot of passages for the purpose of practicing, because of which they become too familiar with the pattern, the structure, the types of questions. At that point, they think, or they will start thinking, that it is unnecessary for them to read the instructions anymore, because they know what the type of questions are and what they are supposed to do with that particular type of question. So they won't read the instructions carefully, and this can be a big mistake. When you are in the exam hall, you need to realize the situation can be different, the atmosphere can be different. The chances of getting distracted are higher there. So if you don't read the instruction properly, you might make mistakes. See, instructions could vary. Even though the chances are less, there could be variations in instructions. And if you don't read the instruction properly, you will totally remain unaware of those variations. In certain cases, even if there are no variations, even if there are no changes in the instructions, you will still could make careless errors or silly mistakes. I'll give you a couple of examples to substantiate that. Let's say in the instruction they have given you a word limit, no more than 2 words. But you may have read it as no more than 3 words because you were not reading the instructions carefully. So you thought it is 3 words, but in reality, in the question paper, in the instruction, it's 2 words. So you might end up in writing an extra word there, and you could lose your mark. This is one situation that could happen when you are in the exam hall. There could be another situation. Let's say a candidate has practiced a lot of different types of questions, and they might have been practicing yes, no, not given a lot. During the exam, in the passage, the question may be true, false, not given. But since this candidate has practiced more yes, no, not given type of question, and if this candidate doesn't read the instruction carefully, for true, false, not given type of question, this candidate might end up writing yes, no, not given, and imagine how disastrous that can be. So you always should make sure that you read the instructions all the time. No matter how familiar you are with a particular type of question, you need to read the instruction as if you are reading it for the first time. Now, the second point. Once you have understood the instructions, definitely you need to go for the questions. Now is the questions that you need to read carefully and thoroughly. See, candidates, when they try to practice or when they are in the exam hall, they somehow want the answer, because of which they could be rushing towards the passage to get the answers from somewhere in the passage or in some paragraphs. Because of this reason, because of this rushing, they may not read the question properly. The idea they got from the question may not be perfect. And you should realize there is no point in finding the answer if you haven't gotten the perfect idea of the question, because the answer you're going to get from the passage will be wrong for sure. You're definitely going to lose mark there. So you always should Understand the importance of reading the question properly. You should know what exactly you need from a paragraph, you need from the passage, what the question is asking us to find out, without which don't expect a correct answer from the paragraph in any section of any passage, whether it be an academic passage or a general training passage. It is so important to read and understand the questions perfectly. When we talk about the importance of questions, there is something else that you need to keep in mind. Never spend too much time on a single question. See, I have already told you, you need to read and understand the questions properly. But what if you can't understand a question at all? What if the question is so confusing for you to get a perfect idea from there? Should you simply retry? Never. If you, let's say you read the question twice, still you are not capable of understanding the question properly. There can be other situations where you might have understood the question, but you are finding it difficult to identify the location of the answer. Or even after finding the location, you may be finding it difficult to get the perfect answer for a question. In any of these situations, you should not waste your time. You should simply move on. You should realize if a question is likely to waste your time. If it is going to waste your time, you should realize it and you should always move on to the other question. Never ever let one question jeopardize the whole exam or ruin the whole exam. That should never ever happen. So if you can't understand a question, if you're totally baffled, if you're totally confused, just skip on to the other questions. After you have understood a question, let's say you understood a question, you are not confused with the question, now it's our duty to find our answers from the passage. See, it is important to read the passage intensively. That doesn't mean the whole passage should be read in such a manner. No, that is unnecessary. We don't need to get every information from the passage. That is not needed here. We simply need answers for the questions. So intensive reading is important, but don't try to read every point in the passage intensively. Instead, you know different strategies which I'm not going to explain in detail, like skimming, scanning, and other kind of techniques which you can use to locate the answers in the passage effectively. Once you have located them, it is your responsibility to read that specific area or that paragraph clearly and thoroughly to get the perfect answer from there. See, this is a mistake which many people often do when they try to solve a passage. They over depend on the techniques or the strategies like skimming and scanning, I said before. So they tend to believe that by just skimming and scanning, they will get the relevant information. That would be enough for them to get the answers. That's a wrong notion. They will just allow you to find the location, or they will just help you to find the location. Once you have found the location, see, a keyword. On the basis of a keyword, you will be scanning the paragraph. A keyword may be in the second line of a paragraph, but the perfect answer may be in the fourth or in the fifth or in the last line of the para, the same para. And you will never realize where the answer is and what the answer is until and unless you read that area thoroughly. So what I'm trying to say here is, intensive reading is important, only that area that you have located by using various techniques like skimming and scanning. Alright, so I have told you about intensive reading, and now you know only that area you have located should be read intensively. What about the other areas? When you skim, what should you do? How should you skim? Avoid vocalization or subvocalization. What is vocalization? Moving your lips to read the words. What is subvocalization? It's reading the words, each word in your mind, in your head. Don't do that. Both are not going to be a great idea. You know why? Because it's going to take time. There would be a limit in how many words you can read at a particular speed. You won't be able to surpass that particular limit if you're using your lips or if you are reading the words in your head. So I will never support the idea of vocalization or subvocalization. See, there can be areas where this can be necessary. For example, let's say there is a particular line that you cannot understand in the paragraph. At that time, for some people, it depends on their style of reading. For some people, they might have to read it by moving their lips to get that particular idea. In those circumstances, it is fine. But when you skim through the major details in the passage, don't move your lips. Don't read every word in your head. So both vocalization and subvocalization should be avoided only in those cases where you really need to understand certain things. Alright, like a particular situation I explained just before. So these are the 5 basic things that every candidate should remember, should keep in mind when trying to solve a passage to avoid distractions and to get perfect answers whenever you solve a passage. And before I end this video, I need to give you an advice which I do give to everyone. Please do read a lot. That will definitely help you to improve your overall language. The more words you know, the more sentence structures you know, the better it is gonna be for you. So please develop the habit of reading. So that's it for today's video. If you have liked it, please share it to other friends who would really like to know more about IELTS reading and IELTS and this institution. And if you haven't subscribed the channel, please do subscribe the channel as well. So thank you. See you in another video.